The fog rolled thick through the Cumberland Gap the morning they found Samuel's body, clinging to pine needles like damp cotton and muffling the world into a grey dream where only the worst things felt real. Jacob Turner had been riding patrol for 6 years and had seen his share of horrors: runaways beaten senseless, overseers crushed beneath their own mules, a planter's son hanging in his father's barn. But the sight waiting in the clearing ahead made his hands shake so hard he nearly dropped his rifle. Samuel Hayes had been a free man, papers signed by a Quaker family in Pennsylvania. He'd come south to Tennessee to work as a blacksmith and married a Cherokee woman named Aoka in a quiet ceremony most white folks pretended not to notice. The Cherokee, who had remained after the removal, had learned to make themselves invisible. Samuel had learned to do the same, papers always in his breast pocket, head bowed, hammer swinging. Those papers hadn't saved him. Jacob dismounted slowly, boots sinking into mud darker than it should have been. The smell struck him, then copper and meat left too long in the heat. Though it was only April and frost still clung to the morning. Samuel's body lay spread-eagled between 2 oaks, arms severed at the elbows, legs gone at the knees. The stumps had been cauterized by fire. His torso was carved in deliberate patterns deep enough to show bone. But it was his face, eyes sewn open with silk-fine thread, mouth frozen in a scream that must have lasted hours, that made Jacob turn away and vomit into the ferns. Tom Wardell, Jacob's partner, had gone pale. Jesus Christ. Who does this? Runners, Jacob lied automatically. They always run eventually. Think being free up north makes them free everywhere. But his voice cracked. They both knew the truth. Samuel hadn't run. He'd been taken 3 days ago, broad daylight, dragged from his forge by the Benson brothers, Wade and Coleman kidnappers, who fed the Deep South's hunger for strong backs. Free blacks were worth good money if you burned their papers first. The sheriff looked the other way. Technicalities didn't matter much this far from Nashville. We need to find the wife, Tom said. Jacob's stomach sank. He'd seen Aoka twice, once in Knoxville's market counting coins with careful precision, and once standing outside the forge, watching her husband work with an expression of absolute, unsettling serenity. Cherokee women were supposed to be quieted by history. This one carried herself like a queen. They wrapped the remains in canvas and rode toward the forge. The door hung half open, shifting in the wind. No birds sang wrong for spring. Inside, they found her sitting at a table, hands folded neatly. She was younger than Jacob had imagined. Barefoot, blue homespun dress, long black hair falling to her waist. She lifted her eyes when they entered, calm as still water. "I'm afraid I have terrible news," Jacob said. "I know," she answered. "I felt him leave. I felt him suffer. I felt him die." Tom swallowed. I know where you found him." She rose then, taller than either man expected, her presence filling the room like cold iron. The Benson brothers took him. They broke his hands with a hammer. They destroyed his papers. They played with him. They laughed while he screamed. "How do you know that?" Jacob whispered. "Because I tracked them," she said. "I watched everything." Jacob's blood went cold. "Why didn't you report it? Why not come for help?" She smiled, and the emptiness behind it was more frightening than rage. "Report it to the sheriff who takes their money, to a judge who sent my people west to die." She stepped toward the doorway. "Leave. Tell them you delivered the news. Tell them I'm grieving, if it comforts you. Tom reached for his pistol, but Jacob stopped him. Something in the air felt wrong, older, heavier. "Do not come back," she said. "Anyone who crosses my threshold again will not leave alive." It wasn't a threat. It was a certainty. They fled. Their horses fought the reins, panicked by something neither man dared name. Back in town, Jacob sat in the tavern with trembling hands. Outside, the wind rose, howling down from the mountains like something ancient had turned in its sleep. The next morning, the first bodies appeared by week's end. All of eastern Tennessee was whispering about the Cherokee woman and her wolves. The Benson brothers were found, first torn apart, bodies arranged deliberately, symbols carved into the trees, wolf prints the size of dinner plates circling the clearing. Sheriff Pritchard summoned John Ross, principal chief of the Cherokee Nation, to read the words carved in the oak. "The forest remembers." They soon learned Aoka had disappeared into the mountains, taking with her a pack of unnatural wolves, 7 of them, grey as smoke, huge as ponies, eyes too intelligent. Hunters went after her. Some returned broken. Some didn't return at all. Aoka moved like a ghost, but she wasn't haunting the mountains. She was hunting them. Slave traders woke to find their dogs dead and their chains cut. Overseers who'd tortured their workers were discovered hanging from their own barns. Coffles of enslaved people vanished into the night and reappeared northbound, freed and armed and terrified of the woman who saved them, but grateful nonetheless. Rumors spread among enslaved communities: a Cherokee woman who freed the stolen, a spirit who punished the wicked, a wolf queen who made the forest roar. Aoka heard none of it. She lived on vengeance and memory. Her grandmother's medicine had remade her, body and spirit. Her wolves, no longer entirely wolves, were her shadow and shield. The mountains were her weapon, and she had one more name on her list: Henry Carver. Carver's plantation sprawled over 300 acres of cotton and misery. He slept beneath chandeliers, paid for with human suffering. He'd funded the Benson brothers. He'd enriched himself on stolen labor. He'd slept peacefully, believing himself untouchable, until the night Aoka arrived. The wolves came first, silent shapes gliding through cotton rows. The plantation dogs died before they could bark. The overseer rushed from his cabin, shotgun trembling in his hands. He never reached the main house. Carver woke to the sound of screams. He ran to the window and saw her, a woman in red paint, bow raised, wolves at her side. She knocked one arrow and nearly took his heart, but Vance shoved him aside at the last instant. Gunfire cracked. Wolves crashed through the veranda. Men screamed and fell. Aoka moved unseen through the cotton, arrows flying like silver streaks. Her wolves tore through the defenders with terrifying, coordinated precision. Carver fled inside, but she was already there. Bloodied from his bullet, she rose with an eerie calm, eyes reflecting candle flame like an animal's. "That should have killed you," Carver whispered. "I stopped being killable," she said, "the day I buried my husband." Minutes later, Carver lay dying at the base of his staircase. His enslaved workers gathered in the doorway, staring at the woman who had killed their master and broken their chains. "You're free," she said. "Take what you need. Go north. I've prepared the paths. What about you?" Someone asked. "I'll watch him die." And she did. When authorities arrived, the plantation was ashes. Carver's body lay cold. Cherokee warnings were carved into the walls. The scales tipped toward justice. The killings increased. Patrols vanished. traders refused to enter the mountains. Politicians panicked. Troops were deployed. Bounties rose. The state declared her an insurgent. Aoka became more myth than woman, but infection from Carver's bullets spread. Exhaustion hollowed her. And when John Ross came with news that the government would use her actions to justify removing the last Cherokee families from Tennessee, she faced a choice: fight until she died, or save her people. She chose her people in a midnight exodus. She led 60 Cherokee north over hidden trails, through snow and danger, dodging patrols. She saved them all, then turned back toward Tennessee wing. She was walking into a moor. What followed was months of warfare, her wolves thinning, her strength fading, the sky above the mountains filled with smoke as federal troops tried to burn her out. The Underground Railroad joined her. Thomas, a conductor who'd become her closest ally, fought beside her, his network growing stronger because of her. But at last the government offered amnesty out of mercy. But because killing her would make her a martyr too powerful to contain, exile instead. Canada, John Ross begged her to live. Thomas urged her to go. And for the first time since Samuel's death, she let herself imagine something beyond vengeance. She crossed the border with her wolves. Beside her, some people threw stones. Others threw flowers. All of them stared. In Canada, among Cherokee exiles north of Toronto, she found something like quiet. She taught children the old language. She kept stories alive. She buried Ghost in a clearing that reminded her of Tennessee. The other wolves drifted back to the wild. She lived to be 60-3. She never remarried. She never returned. But the mountains kept her memory. Traders spoke of wolves where none should be. Hikers heard songs in the wind. Trees still bore her carved warnings. The forest remembers. She changed nothing. If you measure change by laws, she changed everything. If you measure change by courage, they called her the Avenger, and they were right.